Chapter 5. Suspicion. The safe in Dr. Anya's office had taunted Alara for 2 weeks. It sat behind a tasteful abstract painting, its digital keypad protecting secrets she desperately needed. Somewhere inside were files about her past, about the mysterious tragedy involving her son, about why she'd been committed to Ravencrest in the first place. "Tell me, Doctor," he said, his voice carrying that familiar hint of darkness that made her pulse quicken. "Do you believe in the permanence of identity?" She kept her expression professionally neutral, though her borrowed heart raced. "What do you mean, Mr. Rivers?" "Identity. The self." He leaned forward slightly. "If consciousness can be transferred, hypothetically, of course, does the original identity remain intact? Or does it fragment, taking on aspects of its new vessel?" "An interesting philosophical question," she replied carefully, maintaining Dr. Anya's accent. "But perhaps not relevant to your treatment." His smile was razor-sharp. "No? I find it fascinating. Take you, for instance. You've seemed different lately. Small changes in posture, in speech patterns, in the way you move." He tilted his head, studying her. "Almost as if you're wearing Dr. Anya's life like a costume that doesn't quite fit." Ice shot through her veins. "Mr. Rivers, I taught someone about body swapping once," he continued, his voice dropping to an intimate murmur. "Someone beautiful, someone desperate to escape. I should have known she'd try to use it against me." "That's enough," she said sharply, standing. "This session is over." He rose with that fluid grace she remembered so well. "Is it, Alara?" The name hit her like a physical blow. They stood facing each other across Dr. Anya's desk, the rain drumming against the windows, the air electric between them. "Don't come any closer," she warned, as he took a step toward her. "Or what?" His smile was terrible in its beauty. "You'll call security? Have me sedated, like you did to Dr. Anya?" Another step. "Did you think I wouldn't figure it out? That I wouldn't recognize the essence of you no matter what flesh you wear?" She backed away until she hit the wall. He followed, moving with predatory grace until he was inches from her. This close, she could smell his familiar scent, could see the flecks of gold in his eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I've missed you," he whispered, raising a hand to cup her face, Dr. Anya's face. "Even in this body, you're still my Alara. Still mine." The touch sent electricity through her system, this body responding to him even as her mind screamed danger. "I'm not yours," she managed to say. "I never was." His hand tightened on her jaw. "No? Shall we test that theory?" His other hand slid into Dr. Anya's carefully styled hair, gripping hard enough to hurt. "I could expose you right now. Tell everyone what you've done. Or what?" His lips brushed her ear. "Or you could come back to me. We could leave together, take any bodies we want, be anyone we choose, just like I promised." For a moment she wavered. The pull between them was as strong as ever, transcending the body she wore. She remembered how it felt to be loved by him, the intensity, the passion, the all-consuming fire of it. But then she remembered the possessiveness, the control, the way he'd tried to own her very soul. "No," she said firmly, pushing him away with Dr. Anya's strength. "I won't be your prisoner again." His eyes darkened. "Then you leave me no choice." He moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. "By the way, I paid a visit to your former body this morning. Dr. Anya is completely sedated, of course. Good work there. But don't think that will save you." His smile turned cruel. "I've been making my own plans. There's more than one way out of Ravencrest, as you've so cleverly demonstrated." Her blood ran cold. "What are you planning, Caspian?" "You'll see. Perhaps not with those eyes, though." He glanced meaningfully at Dr. Anya's body that she now inhabited. "Goodbye for now, my love." He left her standing there, shaking in Dr. Anya's expensive heels. Through the office window, she could see her original body being wheeled across the grounds, slumped in a wheelchair, heavily sedated. Even from this distance, she could tell there was no awareness in those eyes. Dr. Anya's consciousness was thoroughly suppressed by the medications. The rest of the day passed in a blur of anxiety. She canceled her remaining appointments, claiming a migraine. Instead, she sat in Dr. Anya's office, staring at the safe behind the painting, mind racing. What was Caspian planning? He had the knowledge of body swapping. Would he try to escape Ravencrest the same way she had? And if he did, how would he find her? The thought made her shudder. Her phone, Dr. Anya's phone, buzzed with a text from Mark. "Parent-teacher conference at 6. Don't forget." God, the conference. She had completely forgotten. Sarah had been struggling in chemistry, and they were supposed to meet with her teacher. Another piece of this stolen life she had to maintain. She arrived at the school just as twilight was settling over the city. The halls were eerily quiet, her heels clicking on the linoleum as she made her way to the chemistry classroom. Mark was already there, talking quietly with a middle-aged man who must be the teacher. "There you are." Mark smiled warmly, reaching for her hand. "Mr. Stevens was just telling me about Sarah's latest test scores." The meeting went smoothly enough, though Alara struggled to maintain her focus. Every shadow in the darkening classroom made her jump, expecting to see Caspian's tall figure lurking there. Every time the building creaked, she imagined him watching, planning. Driving home afterward, Mark noticed her distraction. "Everything okay, honey? You seem tense." "Fine," she said shortly, then remembered to soften her tone. "Just worried about a difficult patient." At home, she begged off dinner again, claiming work to catch up on. Instead, she locked herself in Dr. Anya's home office and began searching frantically through papers, looking for anything that might help her access the safe. The office was as meticulously organized as the doctor herself. Files were labeled and arranged alphabetically, color-coded by type. Everything had its place, its purpose, but nothing gave her the clue she needed. She was about to give up when she noticed something odd about the family photo on the desk. It showed Dr. Anya, Mark, and Sarah at the beach, all smiling. But there was a slight crease in the photo, as if something was hidden behind it. Her hands shaking, she removed the photo from its frame. Behind it was a series of numbers, written in Dr. Anya's elegant hand. 3217, 44-8, the safe combination. She was halfway to her car before she realized she couldn't go back to Ravencrest now. It was nearly midnight. Any attempt to access her office would look suspicious. But the numbers burned in her mind like fire. Tomorrow she would finally learn the truth. That night, lying beside Mark in the dark, she felt the walls of her stolen life closing in. Caspian knew who she was. He was planning something dangerous. And somewhere in that safe were answers that could change everything. She must have drifted off eventually, because suddenly she was dreaming. She was in a house she didn't recognize, but somehow knew was hers. Smoke filled the air. A child was crying somewhere upstairs. She was running, trying to reach him, but her legs wouldn't move fast enough. She woke gasping, covered in sweat. Mark stirred beside her. "Bad dream?" he mumbled sleepily, pulling her close. She lay rigid in his embrace, her mind racing. The dream had felt so real. Was it a memory trying to surface? Was her son? The next morning, she arrived at Ravencrest early, before most of the staff. The corridors were quiet, lit only by gray dawn light filtering through the Gothic windows. Perfect for what she needed to do. She unlocked her office with trembling hands and went straight to the painting hiding the safe. The numbers from the photo frame seemed to glow in her mind. 32-17-44-8. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside was a single file labeled Matthews Alara, Confidential. Her hands shook as she opened it. The first page was a newspaper clipping from 3 years ago. The headline made her blood run cold. Local woman institutionalized after fatal house fire. 3-year-old son dies in tragedy. Before she could read further, a voice spoke from the doorway. "Found something interesting, Doctor?" She whirled around. Caspian stood there, his beautiful face a mask of dangerous calm, his gold-flecked eyes gleaming with triumph. "You and I," he said softly, "need to have a conversation about our future." She had tried every combination she could think of. Dr. Anya's birthday, her daughter's birthday, her wedding anniversary. Nothing worked. The safe remained stubbornly locked, like her own memories. It was during her morning session with Caspian that everything began to unravel. He sat across from her in Dr. Anya's office, beautiful and dangerous as ever in his hospital-issued clothes. Rain streaked down the Gothic windows behind him, casting shifting shadows across his perfect features. Those gold-flecked eyes hadn't left her face since he entered.